Session of the show. We did play that song, African China, Mr. President. We had to play it twice because we needed you to listen to it twice for the message to sink in. The song is so nice, we played it twice. All right, my name is Maddox. Great to know you're still here with us, and my co-host is still here.
Yes, my name is Miriam Mohammed, and this is the last leg of the People's Breakfast. Of course, much later, the midday gang will be joining us. And right now, we're looking at something very topical and critical to the nation, Nigeria.
And that's the first year in office of Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Today, precisely, makes it 1 year on the calendar that he took his oath of office as the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And then also very significant is the fact that it is also going to mark 25 years of unbroken civil rule in Nigeria. Now, by the time you split up the time we had the military and the civilians governing the space, the military used to have an upper hand, but with 25 years of civilian rule into Nigeria's 64 years, you could say that democracy, I put the democracy in quotes, has actually caught up with the number of years we've had military rule. And we could say that a democratic culture is developing in Nigeria. And Nigeria could very soon start boasting with other countries that have had long periods of unbroken democratic rule. So it's significant, it's a milestone. We've never had 25 years of civilian rule ever in Nigeria. The First Republic lasted about 6 years. The Second Republic lasted just 4 years. The Third Republic never took off. This is like the Fourth Republic, and it has now lasted 25 years. So there apparently are gains in those 25 years. The democratic culture seems to be seeping in. But would focus more on President Tinubu's 1 year in office. And if it looks like you could say it has had everything in it. Any kind of thing you want to has been involved, has happened, has evolved in the Tinubu administration. We have two gentlemen in the studio already. A third gentleman will join us eventually. We're retaining Mr. Great Imo in the studio. He needs very little introduction. He's been here with us. Great Imo Jonathan, thank you for staying back.
My pleasure.
All right, so joining us also is a media practitioner, John Okoro. John is someone who's at home with facts and figures, especially on issues of governance. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Maddox. Thank you, Miriam. And great.
And then shortly we'll be joined by an APC stalwart in the person of Yakubu Dati. He'll be live in the studio shortly, so by the time he comes, he would get inserted in the conversation. But, well, we have two people here in the studio to start the conversation. Let me start with you, John. 1 year of Tinubu and 9 years of the ruling APC in Nigeria. There's one headline from the Guardian newspaper this morning. It asked the question, where is Tinubu's renewed hope? So let me ask you, what has the last 1 year been like?
I think it's been very tough. The last 1 year has been very, very tough for Nigerians because it is always expected that government as a structure we put these things, those things that would better or add value to the lives of Nigerians, that those things should be in place for Nigerians to have access to them and also apply them in their lives in different ways, and then come out and beat their chest and say, yes, because I am a Nigerian, this is what the government has done for me, and this is what I'm benefiting. And it could be seen by everyone. However, in Nigeria, it hasn't been the same. And if you look at the government coming in place, it's like every government that comes, if it's a 4-year government or 8-year government, it's like a circle. Once it gets to the end of that circle, it closes. it closes. Then whoever comes again starts from the beginning again. It starts from the beginning, and it's like we are starting new, that nothing has even happened before. Because if you look at the past 1 year, you ask yourself, what have we even achieved? And from my own perspective as a Nigerian who has passed through and gone through this 1 year, I can say that we have not even achieved anything. Frankly speaking, had it been that we've had a government structure that keeps on moving on, whether there's a new government or not, then at least we say a new government comes with maybe an addition to what is already on ground. There are certain things that we're not supposed to be talking about in Nigeria now, after about 65 years of independence and 25 years of democracy. We should be talking about how we can be improving in terms of science and technology. The issue of the physiological needs of Nigerians, such as food, shelter, infrastructure, should have been a thing of the past in this country. By now, we should have been talking about how we can, the kind of roads we build these days, definitely must be advanced roads. You understand? We were talking about how we can increase our technological know-how to add more value to us as Nigerians. That's the way it should be. However, it's like we are starting all over again. It's like we're starting all over again.
Oh, okay, John.
All right, just to welcome our third guest in the studio, I'm going to welcome him with a question. He would say his welcomes after I'm done. Well, the president, while inaugurating his cabinet, said, I'm reading from his speech, he said his policy implementation will reform the economy, ensure inclusive growth, and strengthen security for peace and prosperity, saying without security, there can be no investment. So like a holistic reform of the system, with security as the bedrock. Good morning, sir. Yakubu Dati, welcome to the studio. You heard what Mr. President said to his cabinet. 1 year after, where do things stand?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity to be here. I'd like to start by saying that, to quote what Mr. President just said, that we have turned the curve. There's a lot that's happened over the years, over successive administrations, and we'll be able to re-engineer and retune the economy. And of course, when something good comes, it comes with its own challenges. And as a country, we have turned that difficult curve, and we are beginning to see the early results after the administration. For once, we are seeing a lot of developments that are ongoing. Yesterday, there was a lot of, people who live in Abuja. In fact, the worst critics will appreciate that things have changed. The roads have opened up, there's been construction all over. And for the first time, we have ministers giving account to Nigerians, showing that, look, our appointment is not just to the president on seat, but to the generality of Nigerians. And they had access, people had access, the journalists, to be able to question and ask them about their programs of action, which is the first of its kind. And that in itself shows that we are moving in the right direction as a country. It cannot be all uhuru overnight. It has never been. Even in a family, when you start, there are always challenges here and there. But as you take the steps that demonstrate that indeed there is an intention to be able to move the country forward, you get a lot of support and a lot of sacrifices that come. And that is what we are seeing across the length and breadth of this country. For the first time, there's been following the removal of fuel subsidy. And at this point, I must stress that all the three presidential candidates, Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, all agreed that the fuel subsidy should be removed. And then when it has been removed, suddenly you are beginning to see people speaking from double sides of the mouth, which is typical of politicians. But the point remains that that has also sent a lot of income into the country, which the president, being a Democrat and law-abiding person, has been able to ensure that whatever that comes in is distributed to the 3 tiers of government. And so development should also trickle or begin to start from the 3 tiers of government. But a situation where the federal government is called for accountability, which is acceptable, but somehow we begin to ignore the role of the local government and the state government, who also share in the early fruits of the removal of fuel subsidy, calls to question the sincerity of the interrogation of the matter. And so in this light, we like to state that the president, being a Democrat who has come through the streets of civil society to clamor for this country, has been so far operating along the tenets of the rule of law, ensuring that different arms of government are empowered to operate. I mean, just last week, the Attorney General of this Federation took the 36 governors to court over the autonomy of local government. Now that shows you the doctrine of separation of power, where he's not twisting governors to follow the law, but passing through the laid down procedures for them to be able to obey the law. And by the time you have autonomy of local government, all the savings and funding that is going into local government will not end up in a few pockets, but indeed go down to the grassroots where people, 80% of majority of our people reside, and they will therefore feel the impact of government.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Akodati, for that one. Let's go back to Great. What do you make of the 1 year of our president in office?
Let me start by appreciating our brother. It was good that he was properly introduced as a member of the All Progressives Congress, so that at least I know from which standpoint he's coming from, and he's expected as a PC member to speak, to defend the government which he is part of. And we are not dealing with niceties, we should be dealing with facts and figures here. I want to say first that Tinubu are grappling with. I want to deal with statistics. Upon his arrival in government, the headline inflation in Nigeria was about 22%. Today, headline inflation is about 3.2%. That's tell you how low Nigeria have gone in within a period of 12 months. As we speak today, food inflation is about 40-something%. What was it before? It was much less than that, about 28-29%. Today, we want to ask, what is the number of Nigerians who have been pulled out of poverty? Before his arrival in government, there were over 20 million young Nigerians out of school. How many are in school? Before he arrived, the exchange rate officially was about 480. Today, it's about over 1,000 within a period of 1 year. Before he arrived, you found out that the cost of Gary, 1 plus a mundo of Gary, well, how much was it? What is it today? In all of this, the cost of taxation have increased. More Nigerians have been taxed through the removal of subsidy. That means more money have come in. I want to appreciate that. And I also want to appreciate the fact that he talked about all the candidates in the last election. All of them made a promise, they talked about the subsidy. The question was, what were they supposed to remove? Actually, they were supposed to remove the corruption. If we are talking, whoever who was talking about removing subsidy was first and foremost supposed to remove corruption. And if you're supposed to remove that corruption, President Tinubu should not have Mele Kyari in his cabinet by any means, because he was part of the old system whereby these billions and trillions were spent subsidizing fuel, and Nigerians were not even seeing them at the dispense point, and they cannot even account for it till tomorrow. There is no probe of the NNPC, because if we are coming, part of what has burdened the President Buhari's, Jonathan's administration, Tinubu's administration, is the lack of inability, the lack of courage to look at what was messed up in the past and what call them for what they are. You are papering over this thing. Somebody had once, a member of the House of Representatives, have given a list of 15 Nigerians who should be probed. We had somebody here who was a PA to president. While he was selling recharge card before President Buhari became president, while Buhari left and Tinubu came, he was launching a ship in Lagos on TV. Why did he make the money? Yesterday, I listened to Anke Obla, who was appointed by the APC administration, Buhari administration, for recovery of goods looted by people in government before Buhari and maybe during Buhari. He said under Buhari, Nigeria lost probably close to $500 billion. Under Buhari, Nigeria printed 30 trillion by ways and means, and we still borrowed money. Yes, Buhari, Tinubu came and made all this mess on ground. The number one thing is that you cannot go forward except you have cleaned the mess. The inability of President Buhari, Tinubu's administration to look at those hardcore issues are the reason why government is flip-flopping.
Excuse me, please. I need to correct certain things here, and I want to appreciate. Sorry for jumping.
Yes, please go.
Great Imo Jonathan has made a lot of observations, but it's also good that he takes other things into context.
Yeah.
If you are saying that certain people who are retired card owners have not been brought on trial, or certain GMD have not, why don't you appreciate the fact that certain people also have? There are a lot of people that are also on trial. I think when we make analysis, we should balance it such that our listeners will also appreciate the direction we are going to. And I want to appreciate that when you are talking about some of this, you should also appreciate the gains that have been made. The people that have contributed part of the role. Are you saying none of them have been brought to book? Or you don't know that Mayfield is on trial? Or Air Nigeria, the sponsor of Air Nigeria on trial? There are several things that are made. So it's important that we try to put things into context to be able not to be able to mislead our listeners. Thank you.
Am I right of the field, rebuttal? I appreciate the fact that I wasn't saying all condemnation, but I wanted to deal with facts and figures. That's why I gave you the statistics of where the inflation was, what was the exchange rate, what was the tax given to income, and all of those. I mentioned them as a matter of saying one of the challenges this administration have had, which I think is one of the things that have not allowed them to move. Nobody has even actually been brought to book. All this Emefiele drama were all hot air as far as I'm concerned. Because you were even taking a man to court without proper record. What were you investigating about? We read lofty, we had so many figures banded in the early days of his arrest. Right now, what we're hearing is no longer those things we read. There was so-called investigator who was appointed. Where is the outcome of his investigation? I am not saying that. Look, we have not looked seriously at corruption.
All right.
We have not.
Right.
Let's be serious. Maybe that one is part of the challenge. Maybe corruption on the past is going to move. Under his administration, there's a where's the lady?
Great. Calm down. We'll be looking at corruption because I've been looking at the early days of the Tinubu administration.
And I'm telling you one of the reasons why in this 1 year we have had some challenge because our things
hold
on
on,
ground.
hold on to those thoughts. You express them because I looked at the highlights of the 8-point agenda of Mr. President that Wale Edun highlighted, and he pointed out one, food security, poverty eradication, growth, all-round growth, economic, social growth, job creation, access to capital, inclusion, rule of law, and fighting corruption. So corruption is part of the agenda. So we would examine how far the fight with corruption. You make those points, but let me come back. John, you will come up next, but let me come back to one who's close to the corridors.
Yeah.
8-point agenda. I've mentioned them, all spelled out, well highlighted. Where do we stand in all of this so far? So that we can now look at them sector by sector. Let's start from corruption now, since we're already at that doorstep of corruption. Where do we stand in the fight against corruption? The allegation is that the president and his administration has gone against mostly those who did not support him within the ruling party. For a Sirika and Emefiele, you could point at a Ganduje who is actually has now been elevated and is even being fingered as playing a key role in the crisis ongoing in Kano State. So where does corruption stand? Is it a selective fight under the Tinubu administration, or it is a bus stop thing? It will soon reach Ganduje's bus stop.
Very much for this question. First and foremost, I'm happy you picked on the issue of corruption. I'm sure we're all aware that in this administration we have 7 ministers that are facing corruption charges. We have 7 MDAs heads that are serving corruption charges. So clearly, it shows that there is no. The government is not trying to protect even people that are within the government, even people that campaign for this government. In fact, people that have run foul of the law, especially on the cardinal issue of corruption, are being brought to book. Today we have Better Edu that is in court. We have the head of the social investment that is also in court. Quite a number of people are in court, both saving and former, that belong to the ruling APC. So the accusation that the prosecution is one-sided falls to the ground when you look at these facts on the ground. I'm happy that my brother Great says we should be talking about facts on the ground. And these are the facts on the ground. People in the ruling party, people in the government are facing corruption charges. And that in itself shows clearly that this government means business, that this government is not ready to hide anybody or protect anybody that has issues to answer. And even talking about Ganduje, he is also having corruption charges. It has not been dropped. So the different organs of government are being allowed to operate. And that is what will grow our democracy with all sincerity. Because whoever is accused, it's not that when you are accused, you are guilty, but you are also given the opportunity to stay. And all across board, you see people across all parties that have had any accusations in terms of tinkering with our Commonwealth being brought to the established platform, which is the judiciary, to be able to create, to give them fair hearing instead of pronouncing them guilty even before they start. So clearly, you can see that this government is out to fight corruption, even if its own ministers and people serving in this government are accused or affected. And there is no turning back, because we know that corruption is at the forefront of our underdevelopment as a country, as a continent. And therefore, that was why corruption has been made as one of the key points of the Tinubu administration. And it has demonstrated so far that there will be no sacred cow in this fight against corruption. It's only now that, we need to also use this opportunity to call on Nigerians to support the fight against corruption. Because at the end of the day, there is nothing like this is my own chief or this is my brother. I'm happily stating that I belong to the APC. I don't know where Great belongs. Is it Labour Party? We should be able to put things on the table so that we discuss openly and know where we are coming from, instead of hiding behind issues. So we are here to discuss. If we want to discuss as Nigerians, let's be open, let's be factual, let's approach things as they are. I cannot come here with other appellations and say I'm APC, and then other people who clearly are speaking on behalf of other parties are masquerading behind the microphone. Okay. So let's come out clearly.
Okay, Yakubu, nobody is masquerading.
No, I need to settle that. I came standing as
he needs to settle that. He needs to do that.
Advocacy for human rights and anti-corruption initiative. So you can understand my passion. And let me even start by telling you that the astrology that many people are talking about, somebody that people like us know from home, because we grew up in Lagos. I was in Lagos when he was elected. I've been in Lagos before he was elected. As a media guy who worked then under the Daily Time when it was owned by federal government for the privatization. From there I moved to Position International Art Magazine. I was a program officer for Lagos Buchanan Festival. This Sanusi, Ruben Abati, Pat Tony, I managed their program. I'm a very known person, and where I stand on any issue, whether it was under the PDP, go and read my articles as far back as 2011. I have a history in Nigeria because the passion for the transformation of Nigeria is what drives my interest. And as of today, I stand in my toga as Executive Director of Advocacy for Human Rights and Anti-Corruption. So I did not come under the appellation of anybody.
Your CV is
it's not his CV.
And I have a lot of friends in APC who are top national leaders. And he knows very well. So I know where I stand.
Great.
Your CV is very good.
So you need to know where I stand.
He really had to clear himself. Yes, so back to you, John. I mean, he has talked a lot on what this administration is doing about corruption and whatnot. And he has said there's no sacred cow, even though Great has mentioned, some other things. But to you, how do you see this administration handling the issue of corruption, seeing how corruption has dealt with Nigeria and is dealing with Nigeria?
You see, the corruption is very deep here. And even before this administration came on board last year, I remember that when the previous administration of former President Muhammad Buhari came on board in 2015, it was all about fighting corruption. However, after a while, we began to notice many things, especially with the anti-graft agencies, that they don't have the wherewithal to really fight corruption in terms of their investigative ability. Because when you talk about fighting corruption, you must also talk about the rule of law and due process. You understand? And then we have a problem itself within the criminal justice system where you have the judiciary talking about lack of manpower, talking about lack of technology, talking about so many other problems, talking about even the delay in justice, talking about the overcrowding in the correctional facilities, the one we call the custodial facilities today. Now, if you now push it forward at the end of that administration, it was deemed that what was actually achieved more was about media trial than about the reconviction of people who were taken to court for different types of corruption cases and so on and so forth. And this same administration of President Tinubu has also followed the same pattern. All we have today is about media trial, because I believe that if you want to really get conviction for any corruption charge or charges, the very first thing is to investigate. There must be thorough investigation. It is only at the end of your investigation that you can now indict and arrest. And by the time you put these individuals to trial, you already have your facts on ground that can bring about a conviction or otherwise. But it's not that somebody writes a petition now, or maybe there's a whistleblower who just said, oh, this person is being suspected of doing this or doing that. And the next thing, you go and arrest the person without any investigation. The next thing, you take the person to court and the person's plea is taken. And the person is given bail, and that's the end of the story. We hear about, like, we are talking about the issue of Sirica as it is today. I think he had two cases. One is with his members of his family, and then I think the daughter and the son-in-law, and then there's the other one with his brother. And now in the last 1 week, these two cases have been called by the court, and they have been arraigned, their pleas taken, and they have been given bail, which is their right to be given bail. But after that, what is the depth of investigation that the anti-graft agency has done in terms of gathering all the facts, the evidence about that particular matter, of whether it is 3-point-something billion or 19 billion, whatever it is? What have you done? So do you have that capacity? At the time we had the NFIU together with the EFCC, then at the end the NFIU now went to become a different entity, and the EFCC became a different entity. So it is believed that the NFIU, based on the issue of its own mandate, maybe have more capacity, but even at that, we're even yet to see their footprint in terms of these cases. Now the EFCC too has also come again, following the same pattern. So it is not just about media trial. It's not about headline, this person has been arrested. It's about the number of convictions you have been able to achieve before the judges in the courts. And the corruption in this country is very deep, both within the public sector and outside the public sector and the private sector. It's a very big problem. Over the years, we see, if you go to the civil service now, they have been able to, come out, with all sort of guards to make sure that these loopholes where they have access to have preferred public money, that they cover it up and no one knows about it. So if we must fight corruption, we have to go beyond what we're doing now. Just the EFCC following the same pattern. Somebody is pointed out, you pick the person, the journalist everywhere is covered up, and that's the end of the story. We want to see diligent trial. We want to see diligent prosecution. We want to see technology, in investigation, because that's where the world is going to today. It's not just about the analog system to get people you arrange them. You have to go there. If you follow some of these trials, these high net worth individuals who have been tried over there abroad, you will see that these trials, in fact, before they start, they have done all the investigations. So by the time the trial starts, it's given a timeline. It is not a perpetual trial that has no end. It's given a timeline. You know that this trial is going to start from this time, and it's given a timeline from here to here. We hear this case, from here to here, we hear from the defense, from here to here, we hear from the prosecutor. Over a period of time, this trial is done with. It is not the perpetual thing whereby today we keep on having trials that do not have an end because of the way we are going about it. So we have to go beyond what we are doing now. Yes, the intention to bring corruption to an end or to curb it is a good one, but we have to go beyond what we are doing now and do something better.
All right, we usually terminate the people's breakfast by 10 a.m. But today, because it's a special day, it's the handover day, we're assessing the performance of our daddy in the last 1 year. We'll be going beyond 10 a.m. to 10:30. So if you had made plans to leave your radio by 10 a.m., please stay back. But we'll have the news update by 10 a.m. and then come back to continue to do justice to the issues. All right, let me stay on the speech President Buhari made during the inauguration of the ministers. He said that the policy implementation of his government will reform the economy and ensure inclusive growth and strengthen security for peace and prosperity. And then he went on to say that without security, there can be no investment. Security. We could say the steep decline in security in Nigeria, which do say the sharp rise in insecurity in Nigeria started at about 2014 and has been growing exponentially all through the Jonathan government to Buhari's government and to now. The president has said without security there will be no investments, lives, the whole reforms wouldn't work. Great. Security. How well do you think Mr. President has done?
But I don't have the numbers. I think it's about 4,000 there, 4,000 killed. But in my general sense of thinking and feeling, I know in the first early months, which it was a bit tougher, but it looks like things are going to take shape. For example, I'm from the south.
Okay, let me help you with those figures.
Yeah.
4,416 persons killed, 4,334 persons abducted. So 4,000 range both sides.
Now, and as somebody who knew him to have been an advocate of federalism when he was governor of Lagos State, I think those instruments for which the residual powers of the components, the units, could derive from to fight insecurity, I think should have moved faster on that. But there's this sense I have that I think it's reducing. I'm taking the Southie for example.
Yeah.
At the time, I had to even be on Intel where I made it. I said I suspect this is false flag operation, whereby the government, people in government are not able to handle it. But since this administration, I think these issues of unknown government, the South.
I remember that time you used to be afraid of going to your village. Now you go very often.
That's where you there is no money to transfer that before time. Mr. Dati, they have made it very impossible for us to really travel like that.
That's
because so, but I can see that coming from the South, for example, there's this sense of insecurity have reduced, and also we say what the governor, for example, the governor of my state did.
Hope is a
No, I'm not.
Okay, sorry, you're not from Imo.
Yes, I'm from Abia State.
Abia, okay.
The guy also took the bull by the horn, utilizing the security agencies that are already there and coming up with a new architecture, which I knew that was why I was emphasizing the federating units having more to do, and which I thought this where president should push, because he has been an advocate of it while he was the governor of Lagos State. Let the federating unit do more. Maybe you should empower them through the law so that nobody will have an excuse. But I would say generally, everything is not yet to Uhuru, but when you look at things happening in Plateau, in Benue, in all of those, there needs to be stronger reaction to those kind of things. Okay. To resettle over 109 communities that have been displaced, and of the indigenous people, whoever that is there, there's a stranger that is living there should not be there. We can achieve that, but I would say without knowing how the numbers reflect in comparison with what was before, I think I'm saying there is a bit of security, even in Abuja.
An improvement.
Yeah, it's an improvement. That is because I deal with reality. Despite even the statistics, the sound bites and all of those things. When you are in a society, you can say I can relate with this. If I go to market to buy something that was 100 naira yesterday and it's now 1,000 naira, there's no statistics to explain it to me. But if I know that, for example, today in Abuja, in the last 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 month, you have not had the kind of thing happening, it is trying to say that you can feel this sense of improvement in everything. You can feel somewhere like Abia. I think other governors need to do so, and I think even in Imo State, this spate of killing, because that was like headquarters of unknown government and all of those. But little more needs to be done so that we can wrap it up towards the farming areas.
All right. I have this feeling that there's going to be good news now, and that Yakubu Dati will agree with what you just said last.
Are you sure?
Yes, the only thing is that Great was not so enthusiastic about celebrating the fact that he can go to the southeast now without the I would have expected a more categorical, statistical analysis like he has done. Anyway, besides the point, the point remains that there's been a lot of effort in the area of security. Right now, the Boko Haram in the north has been stamped out. We are more dealing with the banditry in the north. And also the issue of strengthening the federating unit is being done by this administration. That is why the savings from the removal of the subsidy is being deployed to the three tiers of government. And I'm happy that the president, as a Democrat, is deploying those resources without political considerations or saying this is this party or this is that. That is why you begin to see that across political lines, across party divides, you see governors that are standing up because they are deploying those resources for the benefit of their people. You go to the southeast, you will see a governor that is standing up. You go to the east, the north, you go to the west, we all have stars that have resources that are being improving and also responding based on what the demands of their people. Of course, we also have those who are always sitting down quietly and blaming everything on the government. And so we are happy that this government is deploying resources to the federation unit, strengthening them, and also using the legal instrument by the way of the Attorney General that took the governors to court to be ensure that local governments can breathe. So those are strategies that are being taken and actions that are being taken to strengthen the federating unit so that we'll have a true democracy, so that people at the second and third tier of government will be able to respond to the yearnings of their people. And then before I also round up on this issue of security, I think we also need to commend the team led by Malanu Rubadu, the National Security Advisor, the security heads, for doing a good job. Because when you have people on the ground who are sacrificing their lives every day, when there are improvements, it's only fair we begin to also accept that they are doing well so that to encourage them to give more to what they are doing. Mr. John earlier on discussed on the issue of corruption, said that there's been a lot of media trial. I agree with you, but you see the different anti-corruption agencies cannot play the role of the judiciary. And so we need to also strengthen and encourage the judiciary to be able to stand firm and prosecute. But one of the issues that bedevils us when it comes to corruption is the accessibility to areas for corruption. And that is where we are not even looking at the issue of removal of subsidy. It has first removed those cartels that were siphoning funds from government. So the opportunity to even for corruption in that sector has been clinically removed because there's no subsidy for you to even divide amongst yourself. So that in itself, I think, is in the area that we should begin to encourage government to look at. How do we stop even the corruption to start in the first place before we begin to look at prosecution, which comes with its own challenges?
All right, Dati, I don't know, maybe I didn't get you clearly about the security issue, but food security is still a major problem and it's still hinged on security. Looking at the herders farmers crisis, farmers cannot go to the farm. What do you have to say to that? Because I mean, food prices keep going up every other day. Well, it's a major problem.
It is a major problem and it's affecting all of us. But we cannot be transfixed with problems without looking at solutions. I was listening to the Minister of Agriculture where he said during this, day before yesterday when he was giving briefing, that before now they used to go to the market, government would go to the market with billions of naira to buy foodstuff and distribute as palliatives. That in itself created inflation. So what they are doing now is saying, no, don't go to the market, don't add to the problem. Why don't you fund production? And when you fund production, you now create the enabling equilibrium for the economy to thrive, to ensure that inflation does not go up. And that is what is going. Government is not magic. government, the people that run government are also human beings. So you should also give room to when you take an action, it doesn't work, you also try to change and take a different action. The government started by buying palliatives, but right now they are going down to see that they put that money into production. Because whatever we do as a country, if we do not produce, it is just a matter of time before the bubble will burst.
Exactly. We understand that government is not magic. And before government intervention, before the palliative distributions and everything, farmers were going to the farm. They were farming and were buying. There was food. But now farmers cannot go to the farm. So that has to be addressed first.
I need to correct this, very important. Because
Okay.
when you say farmers are not going to the
They
farm,
cannot, yes.
I'm from the village. I just came back from the village last week, and farmers are going to the market.
Maybe.
So that general statement is only Abuja statement.
No,
we
it's not
are
just
people from
Abuja
the
statement.
rural area.
If you
will
talk
say
about middle
some
belts.
of the I'm from the middle belt, so I can speak more about the
Kogi
middle belt.
State, Kwara, Plateau.
What I'm saying
you have
is
these
the
things
general
happening.
statement that I'm
Yes,
from
but
Plateau.
even Plateau is plagued with this problem.
It's what you read in the media.
No, it's not just what we read
When
in the
have you
media.
been to Plateau?
Yes,
When
I have
last-
been to
when last
Plateau.
did
I
you go to
can't,
Plateau?
but I have friends in Plateau.
When-
I have family members in Plateau.
What I want
I
to
have
say-
first-hand information about what is going on.
Well, somebody
Yes.
that lives there will probably have more information than you. The point I'm trying to make is
They were
that
attacked recently.
there
Yes.
are problems between farmer and herders, and it is not only based on Plateau or the Middle Belt. It's all over the country because
Exactly.
population is increasing, so land is decreasing. So we need to manage the herders who also provide food, meat, and also the farm.
Yes.
And that is why it's the multiple pronged approach. The security agencies are doing their own to ensure that the criminals who take advantage of this are arrested. Because from where I come from, both sides, there are farmers, there are herders who collaborate. The criminals across both collaborate to attack. It's like kidnappers that we have today. When there's any kidnapping in any community, there's an insider most of the time that gives information on his family. And give information. In fact, we heard of one story, even a junior pastor gave information on a senior pastor to be kidnapped. So the criminal elements are always in every society. We must be able to separate those criminal elements and then allow other agencies of government to work. Number one, the security agencies must come in. Number two, we must also be able to fight food insecurity by ensuring that instead of government going into the market to buy up food stock, create inflation, they should be able to pump it into genuine farmers who are producers to be able to produce so that our GDP will also go up. So those are strategies that I believe we should also begin to interrogate and share with government of the day such that we'll be able to improve on our economy. And then, like I'm saying, there's a lot of improvements. And the narrative that people do not go to farm is totally false.
It's not totally false.
Well, I'm not into argument in this program. I'm here to state my case. And the fact remains that the farmers are being challenged. And then the security agencies are also working around the clock to ensure that they create, because they are right now, their presence on boots on ground are in most of these communities to enable them to go to farm. And that is why we don't have hyperinflation. And that is why you go to the market, you find food, because the farmers are still going to farm.
Right.
So,
Right.
so
Yes.
I just wanted to make that point.
Yes, the farmers are definitely going to farm, but we can't take away the fact that, you know what,
Those challenges are there.
those
Yeah.
challenges are there. The prices are going up because there's limited food now, very limited, and that's why the prices are so high. Let's still talk about security issues, in the country, because food, lives, properties, people, all of that is still hinged on security. How do you think this administration has fared when it comes to security, John?
The this administration cannot do more than it can do.
Right.
Because we already have a structural security problem in this country, which has to do with manpower, which has to do with even the structure of centralizing internal police in the country, where you have police being controlled from Abuja here. That alone is even a structural problem on itself. If you talk about the number of people who are even working as policemen in this country, we have less than 400,000 people manning over 200 million people in the country. You understand? So these are structural issues upon which, if we must have a change in what we see today as security or insecurity in this country, there must be structural change in terms of increasing the manpower, in terms of also devolving security to the federating units, the states.
You're still keeping faith with the People's 105.5 FM. My name is Maddox and I'm here with
Miriam Mohammed.
And we've been having an extended edition of the People's Breakfast today, and we've been looking at the first 1 year in the office for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and of course, by extension, 25 years, unbroken years of civil rule in Nigeria. And I did say earlier that democracy is in quotes, because democracy is not just about having elected officials, but it's also a culture. There's also a development of conventions, and these seem to be gradually taking shape in Nigeria, considering that this is the longest stretch of civil rule in Nigeria, and certain things are beginning to knock themselves into shape. It looks like the diamond is gradually being polished to get its shine. But before we left the conversation, we were talking about security, and we touched a little bit on state policing, because right now, like John pointed out, there's a federal structure of policing. There's no other form of policing that is not within the ambit of the federal police structure. And those conversations have been happening about having state police. Now, great, I'll start with you. You rightly have shown that you know the president a lot, and he's known to have spoken a lot in the past, long even before he became president, about restructuring Nigeria, about creating a Nigeria that works. He, at the risk of putting the president at a spot, I have seen that newspaper headline where he said he doesn't believe in Nigeria. But when you look at the fine print, he was only saying, listen, the way these things are, they need to be restructured for Nigeria to be better. So, looking at his mantra as a reformist, one who's talking about restructuring Nigeria, how well do you think he has pushed the envelope as far as state policing is concerned? And then, what's your general take on the feasibility, the desirability, and whether it's the magic bullet, that state policing, whether it's the magic bullet that would cure insecurity in Nigeria?
Well, like any other thing, Nigerian, the human factor is always the challenge. Even structures that work in any other part of the world, once you bring them to Nigeria, sometimes you begin to have issues. The human element must be the case to consider. But by and large, it is desirable, because the federal government as a government this territory is too big. The administrative capacity to oversee the territory is not there. So, and to make good use of the residual components of Nigeria, you must be able to delegate some of these things. That's why one thing we're dealing with when you were asking for restructure is that the what I call it, the exclusive list was too top heavy over the years. It has made the component units of Nigeria, they are incapable, they are not creative. Though even when you want to, my brother was, Dati was talking about why we are assessing the federal, we're not assessing the state. Sometimes I had this conversation with former army spokesperson and some top guys in the security. I said, part of the problem is you people. And what is the problem? A governor in my state who has immunity is stealing. And when he does, he leaves office. I don't, as a state, as an individual of the state, I write a petition, I don't have the capacity to arrest him. Even when a new governor comes, he does not have the capacity to arrest him. You still have to go back to a federal institution, whether it is EFCC, whether it's NFIU, whether it's Nigerian police, whether it's ICPC, all the instruments, coercive instruments to bring to bear consequences for action and inaction lies with federal authority. There has to be some residual powers, some residual of those authorities given to people to act at certain level. And then the thing that many people have feared is that politicians can misuse this thing. So why do you do? The reason we are human beings is that we have capacity of mind.
to come to a solution to anything that looks like a problem. So if we have thought about the solution and we have where we say there could be clogs, like people misusing it, why don't you come with a solution? Say, in the event where so happen and state police is unable to do it, federal police is there. It does not mean you are abolishing federal police. You understand me? They have shared responsibility. Everybody knows the expected role performance. Then the federal does this, state does this. In the event where state is misusing its power, this is what federal can do to mitigate against that. For example, I'm one of those who advocate this true federalism. But in the case of election, for example, at the state level, even though we are talking about giving more powers to the local governments, giving them, it won't change anything because the governors can pick this local government chairman even through what you call elections. They are kangaroo elections because they are organized by state, where you see that despite where there are opposition, the party in power in that state wins all the seats, both the council and local government. So all of them are subservient to him. But if you had a 10 local government state, and 4 are in opposition and they are elected by their people, and 4 comes from federal and they're able to do something to challenge the rest, you will improve governance. So those things, the human element, the idea is that whatever be the problem, we must have the capacity of mind to think through these things to solve them. And if we must move forward, we must get to those solutions. Otherwise, we'll keep making excuses for where our mates in other countries are moving forward, solving problems that we consider so big, they don't even consider so big. So we should do something about that. I believe in state police. I think it's desirable, but the way and manner it will be structured is to make it in a way that is not misused.
All right, Yakubu, that's it.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm happy that Great is speaking in the same light. I think we are agreeing on the same issues, that state police should come on course, and that's because we believe that there should be less power in the center. The issue of restructuring that we're all talking about has already started without being announced, because we have a president who believes that there should be devolution of power. And the challenges of state police is there. Whether it's the state police or only federal police, the challenges are always there. What is important is for the legislative arm to create the necessary legislature to ensure that there is no abuse, and also to protect the growth of different arms of government. For instance, we have the federal and state courts that are operating side by side with a different function. We still have conflict, but at least they are there. So the state police has come to stay based on what the president has said and most of the National Assembly. And then, like one of the senators said, there should be necessary legislation to allay the fears of people of having too much power with the governors. Somebody mentioned the other day with this issue that's happening in Kano. You know, the governor gave a directive for the Ado Bayero to be arrested, to the police commissioner. Police commissioner said no, he's following the law. So you can imagine if the police commissioner was under the state government, will he be able to say he's going to follow the rule? So in spite of those challenges that will come, we must be able to do the necessary legislature to be able to do that. In the US, for instance, we have even local government police. We have park police. In Nigeria, we are growing. Right now, we have what we call hunters and forest guards. We have vigilantes. So all these are structures that will play supportive roles in terms of law enforcement across board. And as they come on board, we should be able to also strengthen those, how do I call it, mass security agencies that have been brought in, like the vigilantes, the hunters, the forest guards, the regional security things. You know, we have to tinker with it to see that it fits into the bigger picture of a federated Nigeria. Because some of these excesses does not mean you should throw the baby with the bathwater. You can bring it in, correct it, so that we can be able to seamlessly grow our democracy. Like we said, it's not magic, it's not a perfect system, but it's the way to go.
All right, thank you very much. I think this program will not be complete if we do not take at least one call. Okay, so you can call in 0911-222-1055. I mean, we have 3 gentlemen in the studio that can answer any questions that you might have, or take your contributions. 0911 222 1055. Maddox.
All right, so while the call's coming, John, I don't know if you still want to weigh in on the state police issue, or your earlier comments suffice.
It suffices.
Okay. I think we have an incoming call, so let's take that. Hello. Can you say your name again?
Chinedu from Nasarawa.
All right, Chinedu, go ahead. We can hear you.
No tomato in market, no pepper in market, and no farmers now going to farm, and some.
Hello. All right, go ahead.
Today, a mudu of rice is 1,300 naira. A mudu of rice is 2,400 naira. A mudu of rice is 70 naira. What are these people doing here? People are dying every day. No hospital, no school, nobody going farm as of today. No tomato in market, no pepper. Can you believe in this country? No tomato in any market now. Who is going to farm? Terrorism. In that plateau, 50 people killed last week. In that man's state, in plateau. Who is going back to plateau now? My brother, let this APC pack their load and come on.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Okay. I think the basic crux of what the gentleman is saying is about the economy. Earlier, we may have laughed about it, but it's very serious. And the basicest things you need, you can't find them in the market. The mothers that threaten to pepper their children don't talk about it anymore. 2 bulbs of paper, small ones, are like 100 naira. Like someone said, is the economy stupid? Yakudati, the economy. One of the strong points that were projected as the strength of President Tinubu is that he's someone who understands business, he understands the economy, he's worked in the private sector, even internationally, that he's going to do well in the economy. We would like to get your assessment of how well the president has handled the economy so far, but that will be before we get this call. Hello? Yes, good morning. All right, ID Noble, this is your first time of calling, so go ahead. You're not calling back.
So please, all I'm trying to say is, I just don't understand. How we should come on here and they say that farmers are going to the farm. My wife just told me now that tomato around us here, small one like this, 1,000 naira. And now, Gary, at least 1,000 feet around this my island. And we think that all is well, honestly. But it's not about politicians. But the contract should treat airport. They are living fine. Yes, they are living fine. They have the money to spend. But those of us, we don't have. I'm not from government or anything. I'm a pensioner. So please, they should not be coming on here and saying all these things. It's not fair. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, ID Noble. All right, and let's allow Yakudati to give us his perspective of Tinubu's performance on the economy.
Thank you very much. I want to feel with the last callers. Indeed, we all go to the market. We know that things are tough, but it's also part of the disengagement in the economy that we are all suffering today, and that is why this government is taking specific steps to ensure that we turn around the country. We assure you that very soon those effects of those things that are being put in will be felt. Because at the end of the day, the farmer needs to go to the market. The farmer needs to go to farm. More farmers should be able to go to farm. So we need more security, more boots on ground. We need the Bank of Industry, Bank of Agriculture to play their roles. We need the Ministry of Agriculture to also be able to give seedlings. So it's a collaborative effort that will eventually help us out of this present bend. And so far, a lot of money is being pumped, and we also need the states and local governments to also play their roles, because they are the ones closer to the people. Because it's a combination of efforts that will be able to take us out of this situation. And also, a lot has been done in the area of the economy. The coming on stream of Dangote refineries is also a major plus, which we are not seeing. Because for the first time in a very few years to come, Nigeria will stop importing petroleum. In fact, right now, Dangote is even talking about importing crude. So that in itself is going to help strengthen our economy and help our dollar to grow. You also look at the issue of the coastal road, which is ongoing. By the time it is completed, it will come with a rippling effect of economic activities. In fact, as the construction is going on, you can imagine the number of people that are engaged, laborers, people that are suppliers, people that are even selling food. So all those, because what makes an economy grow is the infrastructure. When you build roads, when you build houses, you create opportunities, and that in itself trickles down. So at the end of the day, those are the combination of efforts that the government is putting in. We don't want Nigeria to be the way of other West African countries, where 10,000 naira in those countries like 1 million. I don't want to mention the currency, but this is the trajectory that the Bola Tinubu administration is trying to stop the government, the economy, the government from going into. So all these are effects of the past. We are happy a lot of mileage, a lot of improvements have been done in terms of security. So if people are if they are secured, it will enable our farmers. We want our farmers to go back. We also want more farmers to go to farm, but we also want them to be equipped with finances, with loans, with insecticides, with fertilizer, with new seedlings. We also want the market for them to grow. So all these are combination of efforts that it will take more than 1 year to achieve. And that is why we want to say that with what has happened so far, in as little as 1 year in the life of a country, a lot has been achieved. So we must continue to approach and support the government with a lot of optimism. I'm happy that Great is agreeing with me.
Mr. Adachi, I did not agree with you.
All right, great. Because we are running out of time. But let me also say, tomorrow we would look squarely at the economic policies of the government. So in 1 minute, just
before he goes away, former President Buhari used to always say, I assure you. Then we used to be assured for 8 years. So when you were opening your speech, your last statement, you said, I assure you. Don't assure us anything. We are seeing 8 years of assure you and nothing came out of it.
Great.
John, just in 1 minute.
Yeah, what my advice to government, the current administration, is to do away, to jettison these IMF, the Bretton Woods institutions backed neoliberal economic policies that have been superimposed on the economy of this country. These policies are actually Western model policies that may not be able to work here, because in these Western economies, you have the infrastructure, you have the quality of life of the people well improved, you have the social security net, you have all this, but we don't have all these things here. So it is important that the economic team of this administration should start looking inward and come out with homegrown models that will answer and speak to the direct problem that Nigerians are facing every day. These neoliberal economic policies will not help us. It has actually taken us backward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Great. Well, we're hoping that this hope will be renewed.
And I want to thank you for saying that, Marian, because you are putting hope. Hope is there. And I assure you, if I'm going to from Great, that things are getting better. The hope is there. Don't forget that this is the government. It means well. But sometimes some of the implementers of this policy do not mean well. And that is why the government is also picking them up.
Yeah, we can't afford to play the blame
so
game.
We all have a responsibility as whistleblowers. If you see something wrong, say
something. And thank you so much, Yakubu Dati, for coming on the People's Breakfast Day. We really do appreciate your presence here. Thank you, Great Timo Jonathan, for also being here always. Thank you. And thank you, John. We appreciate your presence here. Thank you, everyone that listened in today. We hope that your hope is being renewed at this time. My name is Miriam Mohammed.
All right, my name is Maddox. Thanks to everyone. Let's do this again tomorrow.